like and subscribe. The Dark Side of the Moon, the Lunar Reform Institute. In the distant future, in the year 3039, a couple resided on the dark side of the moon. Their home was a sprawling facility known as the Lunar Reform Institute. The couple had a reputation with the governments of Earth. They were not bound by earthly laws or regulations. Their only mandate was that some children sent to their institution returned rehabilitated. Governments sent their most troubled youths, many from the foster care system, to this final stop with hopes of reform. The institute was a foreboding place. Its dark corridors twisted and turned with no end in sight. The children sent there were lost souls, abandoned by society and deemed irredeemable. The couple who ran the institute, Victor and Alara, were rarely seen. Unbeknownst to the world, Victor and Alara were vampires. They fed on the unsuspecting children, using the guise of reform to mask their true intentions. Many of the children had no relatives to speak of. There would be no questions asked, no one looking into their disappearance. This was a dream come true for the couple, an endless supply of fresh young blood without any consequences. The anonymity and isolation of the dark side of the moon provided the perfect cover for their activities. Victor and Alara reveled in their sinister operation, knowing that the world's indifference was their greatest ally. With each new arrival, their power and hunger grew, feeding on the desperation and hopelessness of those who had been cast aside by society. The most horrifying aspect of the institute was the ritual. Victor and Alara relished in the fear of their victims. They would inform a child that they were about to die, then release them into the labyrinthine corridors of the facility. The chase would begin. The vampires thrived on the thrill of the hunt, savoring every moment before finally feasting on their prey. Among the new arrivals was a boy named B.N.Rocker. He had been warned about the institute and its dark secrets by the other children. Night after night, the terrifying screams of children echoed through the dark corridors of the institute. Each morning at the breakfast table, there would be another child missing. The whispers among the children were clear. "Keep your head down, don't cause trouble, and whatever you do," one of the kids told Johnny, "don't be noticed." As the boy went back to eating, Johnny was left to ponder his words. The advice seemed simple. He knew he had to be cautious, but a fire of defiance burned within him, waiting for the right moment to ignite. One night, Victor and Alara decided it was Johnny's turn. They approached him in his small, dimly lit room. Victor's eyes gleamed with malicious anticipation as he spoke. "Tonight, boy, you will be our prey. Run, and make it interesting." Johnny's heart pounded as he bolted from the room, sprinting through the endless corridors. The walls seemed to close in around him. His breath came in short, sharp gasps. He could hear their faint footsteps behind him, closing in. He darted down hallway after hallway. The facility was a maze designed to disorient and terrify its inhabitants. As he ran, Johnny remembered his father's words. "Keep your wits about you at all times, son. They thrive on fear. Show them you are not afraid." He turned a corner sharply, then another, his feet pounding against the cold metallic floor. His body ached, his lungs burned, but he pushed on. Finally, he reached a dead end. Johnny turned to face his pursuers. Victor and Alara approached slowly, savoring the moment. "What are you smiling about, boy?" Victor sneered as Alara moved in closer, her eyes fixed on Johnny. Johnny stood tall, a defiant smile spreading across his face. "My dad told me it would be this easy," he said calmly. "I would suggest you run." Alara stopped in her tracks, her expression one of confusion. "What would be this easy?" she hissed. "Getting inside to feed," Johnny replied. In a swift motion he ripped his clothes off, his body transforming. His muscles bulged, his bones shifted, and his skin sprouted fur. B.N.Rocker was no ordinary boy. He was a werewolf. With a roar, Johnny lunged at Victor, his claws tearing through the vampire's flesh. Alara shrieked and tried to flee, but Johnny was faster. He pounced on her, his powerful jaws closing around her neck. The tables had turned, and now it was Johnny who was doing the hunting. The children, drawn by the commotion, gathered around. They watched in awe as Johnny tore the vampires apart, freeing them from their tyrannical grip. The The nightmare was over. With Victor and Alara vanquished, the children were free and felt hope for the first time in a long while. B.N.Rocker had turned the tables on the vampires, proving that even in the darkest places there is always hope. The Lunar Reform Institute was no more, and the children who survived would return to Earth, their lives forever changed. And Johnny? He knew his father was right. Sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we carry within us, but they can also be the source of our greatest strength. This is not goodbye, nor the end. Until the story continues, my friends. B.N.Rocker.